Tov or Tzarayim Tovim. Today we're recording on Erev Yontif, the Daf Yomi for the first day of Sukkot, which is Bava Basra, Kuf Yud, but we're going to start on Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Beis. The Gemara had cited at the end of the Daf. The Gemara we'll start on Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Beis, around 6 lines from the top, where Tani Rabba Bar Chanina Kamed Rav Nachman. It says, Vaya biyom hachilo es banav. So Rabbi Bar Chanina taught a brisa in front of Nachman. It said on the day that a person will bequeath to his children. So the Gemara asked the question, biyom, does this mean biyom atamapil nachalos yatamapil nachalos b'layla? Can only bequeath something during the day but not at night? Does that make sense? And Amro, the Gemara says that's what the Brisa says, that during the day you bequeath something but not at night. So Amro Abaye says to Rabbi Bar Chanina, does this make sense? The Shachav b'yamama hu yarsila b'nei man the Shachav la b'layla lo yarsila b'nei. If you die during the day, does that mean your children can inherit, but if you die at night, they can't? That doesn't make sense. So the Gemara says, okay, so we have to say is Dilma din nachos ka'amris. So the Gemara says that what we're talking about is we have to say that maybe what they mean is, we're in the middle of 113b. Maybe what we mean is 113b in the middle. Maybe what he's saying is din nachos ka'amris. Maybe they're saying that if you want to do a din Torah, if you want to make an inheritance and you want to adjudicate or distribute the inheritance, well, that's something that requires a din Torah, and therefore that has to be done during the day and not at night. The Tanya, we have a brisa to say this, because the brisa says, it says in the pasuk, "Vayisel b'nei Israel," and it will be for the children of Israel these laws of inheritance. Well, chukas mishpat, there'll be a law of justice. Urav kol parsha kol yos din. So the whole passage is saying, it concludes the passage to say that the passage will be a matter of a bezdin, a law. And so that's what it's saying. Ura kol parsha kol yos din. Look at Rav Yehuda. Dam Rav Yehuda, shlosha shenichnesu lavaker esachoa. Let's say there were 3 people who came, and now our Gemara is going to prove that laws of inheritance are something that requires a bezdin. Because it says, let's say there were 3 people that came to visit the sick. Ratzu kosfin, ratzu osidin. If they want, and they heard the sick person that as he's very sick, and he gives away his money to another party. So he says, I want to give away my money. So these 3 people go in. They could either be the kosfin, they could write down what he says and be witnesses and go before a court. So if they wanted, they could do that. Ratzu osidin. If they wanted, they could be the judges, and they could say, we're a bezdin, and we distribute out the matter on that basis. Shnayim shekosvin. But if there are 2 people that went in, then Shnayim kosvin, the 2 people have to be the judges. They have to be the witnesses, because they're not 3. They can't make court, and they can't make a judgment. So Amar Rav Chisda. And Rav Chisda taught, when do we say that these 3 who went to visit the sick, that they could be the best? And only if they went during the day, we're on top of 114a. But if they went at night, and then even if there are 3 people, they can't be judges, they have to be witnesses. And they can't be the judges. My time, because when they have to be witnesses, and at night you can't be a judge. And so therefore they can't be the bezdin because they're witnesses. Because and a witness cannot be a judge. And so therefore, once they're witnesses, they can no longer be judges about it. Rashbam explains, well, but first, so he says, so Abaye says this to Rabbi Bar Chanina, and Rabbi Bar Chanina says, in Hachinami Kamina. And that's exactly what I meant. I meant that you can't adjudicate the inheritance case at night, only during the day. What does it mean? The witness cannot be judged. Rashbam says, Hameid al davar, somebody testifies about something, Inasa o dayin vosa davar. he's not going to become a judge again in that manner. V'gam imras hadavar v'nasa aid, and also if he saw the matter and became a witness, ein nasa od dayan be'edus atzmo, elam came eating acher befanav. And also if he saw the matter and he became a witness, he's not allowed to become a judge on the testimony itself unless others testify before him. And Rashbam says this is just Xeris HaKosav, not just, but it's a verse. It says, by witnesses, before the judges. The pasuk's teaching us that two people need to testify before the judges, but the witnesses cannot go back and sit and be the judges. So now the Gemara asks the following question: Itmar kinyan ad emasai choser. Let's say a person makes a kinyan, like you do this transaction. How long do you have to recant? So here we're just talking about general transactions, and Rashbam explains the Kabai, and the question is, how long do you have to cancel the transactions? Because Rashbam explains, the actual transaction moment doesn't take place immediately. Just to know, to fulfill the stipulations that they're going to add in, or they agree when they make the kinyan that there's a certain amount of time that you could go back. That this is a general assumed principle that this is how people make a transaction. Basically, there's some time that you could go back on it. So how long do you have? So Rabbah says, calls and as long as you're sitting there. Meaning to say that that was the assumption of the transaction. But that if you're not going to recant during the time of sitting there, bro. But if you do recant, it'll be canceled. And that's what Rabbah says. And Rav Yossi says, no, as long as you're just discussing that topic. As long as you're still discussing that topic of the gift. But once they stop discussing that topic, even though they're still sitting there, you can't go back. So Rav Yosef says the transaction takes effect earlier. And Amar Rav Yosef, Kavasi Didi Mistaber. Rav Yosef says my position is more logical than your position. Why? The Amar Rav Yehuda, and he cites the same statement that Rav Yehuda said above. Three people go in to visit the sick. If they want, they could write as witnesses. If they want, they could be judges. And if you want to say, as long as they're sitting there, even though they're not engaged in the same topic, they'll be allowed to change the matter. Then, if that's the case, if you say that as long as they're sitting there, they could go back. If that's the case, how are they able to be a judge in that council? Why aren't we concerned that maybe he'll be the judge, and this person who said this to him will change his mind? And so since we're going to say that he's still able to go back, and since he'd still be able to go back and cancel out the judgment, therefore they can't do a judgment yet. So it must be that as long as you finish that topic, even if they're still sitting there, they can't go back, just like Rav Yosef said. So that's how Rav Yosef understands it. Rashbam says, why does it say that they could be a judge, a court? The Mashma Ba'osa Mammon implies in that same sitting, even though they're still sitting there, they can do a bezdin. Since he could go back, it must be he can't go back. That's what Rav Yosef says. So Amar Rav Ashi Amrito Shmaita Kamed Rav Kahana. So I said what Rav Yosef said in front of Rav Kahana, and he said to me, Rav Yosef Minicha, even according to Rav Yosef, is it good? Meaning to say, is it really going to make sense according to Rav Yosef, who says that once that you finish that topic, you can't go back? But we have to be concerned, maybe while they're still discussing the laws of the inheritance, they'll go back because they're still and says since he could still go back, it wouldn't be a court case. So, what must you say? This liko that the main yana they switch a topic. Hachinami the come of other you see, but they got up and then they sat back down again. So, in both cases, we have to assume that they changed either their seat or their topic. You can't assume it's like the same conversation. And now the Gemara says, "Ve'ilchasa kavasi to Rav Yosef," and the law is like Rav Yosef, besada inyan umerza. So first of all, we know what inyan is. That as long as you change a topic, then you can't go back on it. And a sada. What's the sada? The sada is the case we had earlier back on 12b. A person bought a field on the border with his on the border of the field of his father, and his father dies, and his brother wants him to give him the portion that's close to the one that he acquired. That you could, he's allowed to refuse to give it to him there, and he says, and he can make the claim that this portion is worth more than all the fields of the father. Meaning to say, the brother's claim was that if this person was wealthy, he would want to buy the field because it's next to his fields. They would pay a lot of money, and so therefore they want to charge him more. Even though normally we say kofina mida stone, we force a person. Here, the brothers could say, no, the field is worth more, and so that's what Rav Yosef says. And then the last topic is b'mechza, that we're going to get to, God willing, in 30 days from now. That Rav Yosef says that if the husband says to the wife, my assets will be after I die to you and to your children, and he has several children, we don't say that they all divided up equally, but rather the wife gets half of the assets and the other half will divide amongst the children. Okay, so now we learned in the Mishnah, Isha ve'espina, a woman and her son, and a woman and her husband. And a woman and the maternal brothers, they bequeath, but they don't inherit. Meaning a woman bequeaths to her son, a wife bequeaths to her husband, and the maternal brothers, the brothers of the mother, it's your maternal uncle, they bequeath to you, but they don't inherit for you. So Gemara says, Hatsu Amli, why does the Mishnah need to say this? We already said this once in our Mishnah. Why does it, in a sense, need to repeat it? Gemara says, Hatanale Reisha. Then we learn in the Reisha, Ishes Imova, Ishes Ishto, that these are the ones who are Nochlin. These are the ones who are Nochlin Me'inan Machilin. So the Gemara says, no, what it's teaching us here is, even though it's saying it twice, the second time it's coming to teach us, the Isha the Espina, Dumya the Isha Espawa. That a woman and her son is similar to a woman and her husband. Ma Isha Espawa in Abal Yoresh Ishto Bakever. Just like a woman and her husband does not inherit the woman after she dies, meaning to say that she got an inheritance after she dies, and the husband doesn't get that, and also he doesn't inherit her. She doesn't, and also he doesn't inherit her after he dies to give it to his relatives. Af isha espina, so to a woman and her son, eina ben yoreshus imo bekever. The son does not inherit his mother when he's dead and she dies after him, or as a way of distributing it to his paternal uncles. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishim Rabbi Yehuda ben Rabbi Shimon, Dvar Torah av Yoresh Espino, Beisha Yoresh Espino. Biblically speaking, a father inherits a son and a mother inherits her son. As it states, Nechol Bas Yoresh Nachol Mimatos. Makish Mata Ha'ema Mata. We compare the family of the mother to the family of the father. Amata av Yoresh Espino. Just like by a father's tribe, the father inherits his son. Av Mataim. Ha'im Yoresh Ha'isha Yoresh Espino. We're going to challenge us on the daf for the second name sukkahs, but We'll stop here. This is the daf for the first day of Sukkot. A big shkoyach to everyone. Shkoyach.